What up, Wizards? It's Deb, Mtg. We like it at Magic. And first things first, excuse my mess. We're getting ready for a yard sale. I love yard sales, right? Out with the old, in with the new. Sometimes you got to get rid of the junk and start fresh. And that's why I'm particularly excited for this fall's upcoming rotation, right? How about you guys? What's up? Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no rotation this fall. I forgot about that, actually. Well, I guess when you get to thinking about it, that's okay because we get to keep all of our stuff. And when I get to thinking about it, I want to keep my stuff. I want to keep this Goosebumps. Who has old Goosebumps anymore? There's only so many of those in the world, right? I want to keep this Sonic. As a matter of fact, why shouldn't I have it? So you know what? Let's talk instead today about the top 10 cards that I'm glad aren't rotating. And I'm your favorite Magic Channel's favorite Magic Channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck tech. And we're back. You know, I'm still not really sure how I feel about this whole no rotation things. For a lot of cards, familiarity definitely breeds contempt, and I'm about done playing against some of these things. So again, not really sure how I feel, but there are at least 10, you know, this is a me list, so there's more than that, cards that I am actually going to be really excited to keep playing with for one reason or another. Maybe I like them, or I think maybe the new formats and sets contained within might have something to juice them a little bit. But like I said, we got at least 10 of these and more, so let's go ahead and get to it. Number 10, it's Giardia, Fonts of Hope. Might as well call this card Giardia because it's basically the shit. And if you've ever had a dog with an upset stomach, I guess that joke will make a little bit more sense. But one way or the other, yeah, I already like this card. And also another thing I want to point out is I am covering up my foot with my hands. You don't get that for free. I might as well go ahead and bring this up because I'm going to bring it up like, I don't know, hundreds of times over the course of this video. So might as well get this out now that the next two sets we're going to are Eldraine. We're going, as in Throne of Eldraine, going back to Fairy Tale World. That's cool. And then after that, we're going back to Ixalan, which I'm really excited about. I love Ixalan, right? We all do. It's a fun place to be. No idea what happens after that, but here's the depressing thing about that when it comes to this card. If you go to, say, Scryfall, and you say, hey, give me all the angels in Throne of Eldraine, Ixalan, and Rivals of Ixalan, it'll return 0 results. So I'm not too sure that this card's going to get too much help. That said, right, I mean, I guess after Ixalan, nobody knows what we're doing. We could be going to Angel World for all any of us knows. This card might just be broken, but even if it never really gets any help, like the whole rest of the time it's in standard, I'm just glad we have access to it. It's a really cool card. I like Angels as a deck, and they're in a pretty good place, right? They're not like busted. They don't like win a bunch of tournaments or anything, but every now and again when you check out like MTGO League results, Angels decks will 5-0, whether it's like Mardu or the Blue-White Angels deck with Errant and Giada. Like, you'll see them doing something every now and again. So they're at a pretty fair place in terms of power level. You can have some fun playing it, and it's one of the only like theme decks in standard right now that's actually kind of halfway decent, right? So I like Angels, and I'm just glad that we keep getting to play G. Number 9, welcome to the Dollhouse of Horrors. I don't know why nobody plays this card right now. You know, I guess maybe because like Farewell exists and it's not going to rotate either. That's terrible news, but one way or the other, there's a lot of ways to mess around in graveyards, and exile sweepers like Sunfall exist. So I'm talking myself out of it, but still, this has always been like one of my favorite cards the whole time it's been in standard. And if we get more creatures in the format that aren't necessarily all stats and have a little bit more flair to them, you know, like they got a good text box, a little more Sheoldred looking action, you know, like doesn't matter if Sheoldred's a 1/1, she still has an awesome text box, and we need more creatures like that. And in a fuller standard with more sets and therefore more creatures, I feel like this card just gets even better. Don't get me wrong, commenter, I know that probably sounds like a base level argument at first glance, right? Like a whole bunch of cards get better when there's more creatures in the format. Any reanimator spell does. You know, removal and pump spells even theoretically get better when there's more creatures to target. But in terms of Dollhouse, again, you're looking for that one specific creature with the ridiculous text box, the extremely high casting cost, and the not really important stats to begin with. And I think that creature is a lot more able to exist in a format that's got like 30 sets in it rather than just a 5. Hey, what you doing? Yeah, I'm recording right now. I bet they can even hear you. Say hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. That's Mom, everybody, in case this makes the video. That's my mom. Professional YouTuber. Now, number 8 is Old Stick Fingers. And this is one of those cards where I'm just happy I get to keep playing with it. I'm not really sure I can make a cogent case for why like Eldraine or Ixalan or anything like that, or even a deeper standard really helps this card. I mean, I guess I could fall back again on like, there's going to be more creatures, so that probably helps it, but I don't think it's as tight a case for this card. Altogether, I'm just happy that it continues to exist in the format because I get to keep sticking it to people for like a year. And yeah, dude, professional YouTuber. Now, number 8 is Old Stick Fingers, and this is one of those cards I'm just kind of happy I get to keep playing with. I don't know if I can really make a case that like Eldraine or Ixalan or a deeper standard makes this card better. I'm sure I could just fall back again on the whole like, there's going to be more creatures, so it's better, but I don't think that's as cogent an argument for this card this time around. Altogether, I'm just happy I get to keep sticking it to folks for the next year because ain't nobody going to lay a finger on my stick fingers. I'm just happy to have the card. Number 7 is Big Eddie Donuts over here. Yeah, Edgar Markov is probably the first card on this list that I have like an actual coherent reason for being here. You know, all the other cards I've just justified by being like, I like this card. Of course, if you remember, the name of the list is cards I'm glad aren't rotating. So I like this card. Perfectly good reason as far as I'm concerned. But Edgar Markov has a reason with a capital R for being here rather than the lowercase one. Yeah, in case you're following along, been taking way too long to get to this point. Sorry about that. You're way ahead of me, I'm sure. There's vampires on Ixalan. The funny thing about this is that vampires these last couple of years, right, they've been around. They've been a thing. They could have been a deck, but they've never really been good enough to be like a great Magic deck for the most part, you know? And I imagine if there had been a rotation, you know, vampires would have been a theme deck that existed once that new Ixalan set came out, but vampires probably wouldn't have been very good. But now that we're going to have the vampires from this standard and the vampires from Ixalan in the same standard together, vampires might actually be pretty good. And if that's true, Edgar's going to be the glue. But number 6 is Jenny Faye. Yeah, look, I love that this card is supposed to have like a magical fantasy fairy tale name or something like that, because I am from the American South and I have known like 3 different people named Jenny Faye, and that's how you're supposed to say their name too. But one way or the other, I think I can kind of justify this card by saying vampires to you again. But honestly, it's just that a lot of cards in sort of the vampire suite in the last Ixalan sets made tokens. You know, look at Mavrin Fane. That's exactly one example, and that's all you're going to get. You just have to take my word for it. There were multiple vampire cards that made tokens, and Jenny Faye might be pretty good with any new cards that make tokens. And honestly, vampires are one thing, you know what I mean? Like, Throne of Eldraine will have some cards that make tokens, so will Ixalan, so will whatever comes after that. So basically what I'm saying here is that in a deeper standard, right, I'm just using that blanket argument, but basically every new set has cards that make tokens in it, and so that could strengthen Jenny. Can I go back to just saying I like the card? Is that enough for a card to be on the list? I'm just really happy because Jenny didn't get a whole lot of play, and like us jank lords and content creators and stuff have been doing weird things with Jenny this whole time, but it hasn't like translated to real play. And it's fine with me if it continues to not translate to real play. I just want to keep doing stupid stuff with Jenny Faye. Is that okay? I get to keep doing that for like a whole year. I'm pretty psyched about it. Halfway through the list, we're going to look at Big Score for number 5 here. You know, we had Unexpected Windfall in the format for a couple of years. We've had Big Score in the format for a couple of years now, and I guess I'm just like not ready to leave this card alone and let it go and stuff. It's just a great like utility piece for just about any red deck that's trying to ramp. Meanwhile, if you're also trying to play at instant speed or put cards in your graveyard or draw extra cards, it kind of takes the place of like Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It just doesn't make any bodies or anything, but being able to play it at instant speed, getting double ramp, you know, 2 treasure tokens to fix your mana and go from 4 to 6, drop a land, that's 7, Italy, whatever, right? Just so many like lines available to you when you play this card, whether you drop something and then reanimate it, or you're just trying to like find the answer at the end of your opponent's turn, draw 2, dig towards that sweeper, whatever. Big Score just has a lot to do. There's so much functionality on this card that I'm just really glad we don't lose it. There's nothing like specific that I think it's going to be doing once we get to like Throne of Eldraine or Ixalan or anything like that. I can't come up with like any strategies or mechanics or cards or something that might be in those sets that makes this that much better. Again, I'm just glad that we still have access to a piece exactly like this that does so much. My numero cuatro is Storm the Festival of maybe if this card gets another year in Standard, it'll finally be good, you know? At this point, Storm the Festival on dev list is almost a joke. You know what I mean? I constantly put this thing on stuff because I really, really like this card a lot. The problem is like almost nobody plays green. And when you do play green, you want to play like big stuff, you know, Titan of Industry, Atraxa, Itali, you know, you're playing green. You want to you want to play like expensive stuff because that's what green does is it ramps and blah, blah. So sometimes this card doesn't exactly have the best pieces in the world, but being able to generate 10 mana value for 6 mana value, pretty good deal. And then being able to do it again is kind of hot too, but almost nobody does that. It turns out that the first casting of Storm the Festival is sometimes all you really want it to take. And sometimes it is. There's a bunch of stuff for this to do already. You know, the all will be one kind of combo deck with sagas and planeswalkers. Fun to play with this. The just planeswalker deck, like the green-white deck that plays this, Elspeth, Wandering Emperor, and stuff like that. And gets these like, you know, 2, 4, 5 mana planeswalkers on the table at the same time. There's a lot to do with Storm the Festival right now, but it's just kind of like not good enough. And I'm not sure that getting, you know, 4 or 5 more sets in Standard is going to make it good enough either. But I know that a whole bunch of value on the table all at one time is a pretty good card to have access to, especially in a format where you're about to have a bunch more decent 4 and 5 drops for this to hit on. Of course, if Storm the Festival does hit on you, you should probably call HR. But anyway, I have only got 3 more slots in this list, and I just need something to take me that last little bit of the way. Sit down by the fire, get myself a nice cup of cocoa with the marshmallows, and even though I have cocoa, have myself a coffee break. This week on the coffee break, we'll be discussing the honorable mentions for this video. These are of course cards that I did not think deserved to be on the main list, but nonetheless deserve a special spotlight. This concept is embodied perfectly by Spirited Companion. I cannot come up with any way to justify that this card might get better or worse when autumn rolls around. All I know is that it is a very good boy, and we get to keep our good boy in Standard for a whole year. That makes me very happy. We also get to keep Croaking Counterpart in Standard. This is a card that I love, but has not seen too much play. The only deck it does see play in is the occasional Venerated Rot Priest deck, in which its function is very lame. However, with twice as many creatures in the format for Croaking Counterpart to copy, the possibilities are riveting. And finally, I wanted to look at Voice of the Blessed. There, we've done so. That's all for the coffee break this week. Now let's get back to Big Shrimp Daddy with the top 3 cards. Big Shrimp Daddy, I'm a big shrimp fatty. Roll 'em up and eat 'em like a big shrimp patty. Oh, hey everybody, what's going on? I didn't know you were back. I was just freestyling. Number 3, what is it? It's Slow Gerk, the Overslime. I didn't have to check my notebook. Professional YouTuber, remember? You know, Coach McGurk goes especially well with all the other lands that we're not losing, like the ones that cycle and channel and all that stuff. So we get to keep this whole package of cards in the format for the time being. We also get things like Splendid Reclamation. It's still stay in the format. That was almost on the list instead of Slow Gerk, but then I realized Slowgerk's just a better card, and I think we've actually had better times together. Sorry, Splendid Reclamation, I still love you. Either way, when you're like looking through cards from the new set, and you're like, oh, check these lands out. These look pretty good. Just remember, don't shirk the Gerk. This card is awesome, and I'm not really sure why it doesn't show up more often now, because it does more labor than the whole Maternity Ward. Just a sweet card that we're going to be able to play for a whole other year. I wanted to remind you that. Number 2 kind of dovetails from the last entry, and that's these Kamagawa Lands. I kind of mentioned these a second ago with Slowgerk, and I am glad you can still do that with them, but I'm just glad that they're still gonna exist, period. You know, like I really wouldn't know what to do with my mana bases without some lands that do stuff besides being a land. It's just really thankful to have these, period. You know, it's not every single game that you actually use Takenuma to get something back, and it's not every game that you actually use the Iganjo. It does seem like it's every game that you use the Boseiju, right? It's a ton of targets for that thing. It's a really, really good card, but for the most part, you don't use these all the time, but it's having access to them at all. It's having the option to play them that I just love. And honestly, in terms of like wild cards on Arena, you really don't have to buy more than like, or get more than like one of these, right, per deck. In Commander, if you want them in paper or whatever, I know some of these get pricey, but again, you don't really need more than one of these. If you're building standard paper decks, you don't need really to get more than one a piece of these things. So it's not like they're breaking the bank or your wild cards or anything like that. Just to have them, and having them once you do have them makes your decks like way, way better with just that one step. I love lands like this that are effectively like untapped, like consequence free for the most part lands that still do something else. I just love when lands, or when your mana base is more than just, well, these are the cards that don't do anything but make mana, you know. When you actually get to have like effectively spells in your mana base, huge fan of that, and I'm glad that we still get those. But we are at number 1, everybody. We made it number 1, and this is a card that I didn't expect to be number 1. Like so many of my lists, when I put them together, I'm like, well, this card's going to be number 1, and then I just kind of work from there. You know what I mean? And there are times I make a list where a card works its way to number 1, and it kind of surprises me. But I just kind of had this card like in the random assortment of cards I knew would be on this list. And I thought it would be like number 7, you know, but things didn't shake out that way. It just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed until it became number 1. And now we're talking about Oni Cold Anvil for some reason. Yeah, I'm apparently very serious about this, surprising even myself. But this is kind of an awesome card, isn't it? And I guess you can justify it by saying that there's gonna be new artifacts, not only in like Throne of Eldraine and Ixalan, which aren't like super artifact heavy sets, I have to admit, but there's gonna be artifacts in those sets and every set that comes out after those. There's new artifacts in every single Magic set, unless something has gone like sort of wrong or there's a weird theme going on, right? You know, like this is gonna be the Luddite set, so no deep cut dev, so no technology in this set, one way or the other. That's not gonna happen like anytime soon, probably. So Oni Cold Anvil is just going to get like more and more cards to play off of. And it's already, don't tell nobody, kind of a pretty good card. I guess I probably shouldn't be surprised by this. I would imagine I've got a bunch of people watching right now who are in no way surprised by this, because it's obvious. I like this card. I've liked it like the whole time. I like aristocrat stuff. I like playing with artifacts. I like artifact themed decks. I like when my, you know, engines are super cheap. They hit the board quickly and they get to sacrifice things for damage. Like these are all things that if you've watched more than 2 episodes on this channel, that you like know these things about me. Hey, that's a dev guy. He likes aristocrats. He won't shut up about it. So I guess I really shouldn't be like super surprised that I just kept being like, no, it's not number 5. It's no, this card's better than that. This card's worse than this card. And like eventually, number one on my list. I didn't set out for this to happen, but again, I shouldn't really be that surprised. But aside from that, y'all, we are donezo for this onezo. So just hit that like button on your way out, crew. Even if you didn't like it, maybe just hit the like button. It helps me out a lot for like minimal effort. So just, you know, regardless of whether you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, but a lot of you have recently. We just hit 128,000 subs the other day. That is an awesome number. Big, juicy number. Almost as big and juicy as myself. So I really thank you guys. We just need to crank like 72K more out to get to 200,000. We'll get there one day with your help. I really appreciate you guys. Aside from that, check me out playing Magic on Twitch. Patreon's a thing. It's probably the best way you can support the channel. Links in the description, or just go to the text on screen. But we just got one more thing to do, and that would be the couch card of the day, right? You know that, but the couch is actually blocked off by a bunch of crap over here that's in the yard sale, so I'm sorry. I guess we'll do the random VHS of the day instead. How you feel about that? While we do that, I got to shout out one person, though. I met James the other day at the Kroger. I was pushing my cart around 7 in the morning, all bleary-eyed because I hadn't slept yet. I had just finished editing a thing. I was in my pajamas, had my mac and cheese in my cart and not much else, just looking at the shelves. And here comes James. He was like, hey, man, you do a YouTube thing? And I was like, yeah, it's me. So really appreciated meeting you the other day, James. Wanted to shout you out right here. You're a good dude. But what's this? What is I have no idea what I've just knocked out of there, but it doesn't matter. VHSs aren't worth money. This is, well, I guess some of them probably are. None of these are. This is Walt Disney's Cinderella is what we ended up pulling out, of all things. I did not think, oh, we could have gotten Sailor Moon. We could have got Sailor Moon. We could have gotten more Sailor Moon. Thief and the Cobbler. Fellini's 8.5. Young Frankenstein is in here. We got Hook. Beetlejuice. Oh, man, We pulled like one of the worst things we could have pulled. I guess Cinderella's a good film, right? But would have much rather been able to pull Young Frankenstein. But anyway, that's all. That's all we got for this one. I guess I'll see you guys soon. Patreon poll going right now, and the winner actually hotly contested. So if you're a patron and you haven't done it yet, get in there and vote, baby. But that is all I've got for this one. So I'll catch you cats later. I am Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.